is there a way to really have zero fear, like be fearless and doubtless?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Great.
The way to be fearless is to know who you truly are.
Hi Leute, ich komme gerade von einem Interview mit dem spirituellen Lehrer auf meiner persönlichen Reise, derjenige, der mir am meisten beigebracht hat. Der Name ist Hale Dwoskin. Wenn einer von euch den Film The Secret kennt, das war einer der 24 Lehrer von The Secret. Und er hat Rhonda Byrne im neuen The Greatest Secret, was jetzt rausgekommen ist, zu diesem Thema inspiriert. Das hat er damals schon gelehrt. Hale Dwoskin ist jemand, von dem ich wirklich extrem viel gelernt habe. Ich war super dankbar, dass wir ein Interview machen könnten. Und das Interview, was wir gemacht haben, ist sehr, sehr stark Dating-related. Ja, es hat sehr, sehr viel mit dem Thema Liebesleben, mit Dating zu tun, weil es hier auf dem Channel um Dating geht. Und da habe ich für euch wirklich interessante Fragen zusammengestellt, wie sich sein eigenes Leben durch die Praktiken, die er macht und die wir auch den Leuten vermitteln, geändert hat. Und wie du das für dein Leben wirklich auch mit reinnehmen kannst, um dich da wirklich weiterzuentwickeln und dir ein Leben aufzubauen mit Frauen, aber auch ein Leben allgemein im sozialen Bereich, was einfach vorher nicht möglich war, weil da emotionale Blockaden vorlagen. Und Hale Dwoskin ist wirklich der Lehrer, wenn es darum geht, emotionale Blockaden zu lösen und zu releasen. Ja, Hale Dwoskin war mein Mentor, Hale Dwoskin ist der, von dem ich gelernt habe. Und ich bin super froh, euch das Interview geben zu können mit ihm. Ja, die ganze Community von mir war super gespannt darauf. Ich hab Fragen gesammelt von der Community von euch und werde ihm die auch unter anderem stellen. Und dann wünsche ich dir viel Spaß mit dem Interview.
Yeah, I'm introducing to you today Hale Dwoskin, who is the founder of Sedona Methode, the author of Sedona Methode, of the best-selling book. He's the CEO of Sedona Training Associates, where like already hundreds of thousands of people been helped with the Sedona Method in kind of emotional limitations, resolving them, getting more into peace, getting more into the present moment, getting less limited. He's one of the 24 teachers of the 2006 published movie from Rhonda Byrne, The Secret, which was very famous. And I'm very grateful to speak to you because you have been a big influence in my life. You influenced my life and the life of many people I know, like not so many people, actually. So I'm very grateful to have you here, Hale.
Well, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I would like to jump in with one very plain question. I mean, I have a lot of experience releasing over the years, but for people who are not that experienced here in Germany, how would you describe releasing?
Well, letting go, or the Sedona method, or releasing, is just a simple and powerful way to tap your natural ability to let go of any unwanted thought, feeling, belief, or inner limitation that you'd like. It's something you can do moment to moment throughout the day, whenever you feel stress or tension or anxiety or self-doubt, or you're lacking self-confidence. You can just simply do this simple process and let go of what's causing you to feel that way, and instantly or instantaneously start to feel happier, more at ease, more confident, more comfortable with your own skin, more able to deal with whatever life is throwing at you. And it's based on a simple tenet that feelings and thoughts and beliefs are just that. They're not you, and you can let them go. What generally happens to most of us is when we're angry, we say, I'm angry. When we're sad, we say, I'm sad. We actually believe that we are the feeling on a deep emotional level. We get lost in it. We get very identified with it. But what you can discover from your own direct experience is you aren't your feelings, and they're not facts, and you can let them go. And young children do this naturally, but we as adults train them out of it.
Yeah, like for me, it's like when I release emotions, they feel very personal to me. And I really like subconsciously think I am these emotions. But the more I use your method, the more I come to the conclusion, oh, there's actually a distance between me and the emotion. I can see the emotion. It's not me. I'm not identified.
Exactly. You are that which is aware of the emotion, but you aren't bound by the emotion itself. And that makes a huge difference. The more you can experience that you are that which is aware, as opposed to the emotion itself, the less the emotion can stick to you. The less personal it feels, the less stuck you feel with it. And the more able you are to express yourself clearly and openly and honestly and naturally, and hear clearly what the other people are trying to communicate with you without getting in your own way, without stressing over the anxiousness that often comes in social situations. You just feel relaxed and natural and at ease. And it's very supportive of you anywhere in life, but especially since I know this is something you're interested in, it's especially helpful when you're trying to meet someone or connect with someone new. Because when we meet someone, we read them more on an emotional level or on an intuitive level than on the surface. Now, it's of course great to look good, but that's not enough. If the feeling isn't good, that's often even more important. And so when you start to let go of the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs and the ideas that limit you, and they make you feel more comfortable inside, which makes other people feel more comfortable with themselves and with you.
Yeah, my experience was when I put the Sedona method to use, or also when I release with other people, when I talk with them, it feels more soft to talk to them. There's less of this hard energy. It's very soft. It's very easy. It's getting more easy to communicate.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that's what's natural.
Yeah, exactly. I had a question from some clients of mine, because like 98% of my clients, when I work with the Sedona method with them, they have like really good results, like really fast, good results, long-lasting results. Like they are super happy with it. Their life changes in so many ways, especially like the relationship situations are crazily changed, because that's what we specified on. But there's this 2% of people when I work with them, like 2 out of 100 only, when I work with them, they can feel the emotion. But somehow they have a problem to really let it go, even though I go to different things with them and try to, try my best. But 2%, and they try everything out there and they don't seem to let go. So my question would be, what could be the reason for that?
Well, really, it's not important why they're holding on. It's more important, how can we support them in letting go? Because you can always make up a reason for why something is stuck or off in life. The mind is very good at that.
Oh, yeah.
And they probably have great reasons why they can't let go, or why it's not safe to let go, or why they haven't been able to let go. But one of the things you can do when you're helping people, or one of the things you can do, those of you listening to this or watching this can do for yourself, is to approach each time you do any process designed to be of help to you as though you're doing it for the first time. What most of us do when we go to any place or anything that we think is going to help us is we go with all our preconceived notions. We believe it has to be a particular way. And once we've decided any process or any direction is a particular way, it becomes a filter or a block, preventing us from really fully taking advantage of whatever the opportunity is in this moment. We're going in life like this with the blinders on. We're covering our ability to see clearly. So the first thing I would recommend you do if you're struggling with letting go is forget about all the other times you tried, and then try it or experiment with it as best you can in this moment. The next thing to remember is that when you're doing any process, especially one like the Sedona Method, which is a series of questions, we often think that we know how we're supposed to respond. We should respond in the affirmative if it's a yes/no question. Yet, in my experience, just being honest with yourself, and if someone's asking you the releasing questions, be honest with them. If at the moment you either don't feel like you can or you don't want to let go, then say no. In my experience, of all the years of doing this since 1976, that some of the biggest releases I've had working with people is when they had the honesty and the courage when asked, could you let that go? They said no. And then because they were honest with themselves, just in that moment, the release, it changed and they were able to let go. So be honest with yourself when you're asking yourself these questions or someone is asking you these questions. The other thing that's really helpful is to avoid debate. Many of us, when we deal with life, we hear what's being said, we see what's being seen, or at least we think we are, but we're seeing it through a filter. We're translating it in our head. Like some of you if your English is not your first language, but you understand English, you may be translating it into German. But even when someone is speaking to you in the German language, some of us, instead of just listening to the words, we're translating what we think they mean. And when we do that, it makes it much more difficult to communicate. We second guess ourselves. It brings in self-doubt. And so if you can avoid the translation as much as possible and avoid the second guessing as much as possible, it gets much easier to do. And the other thing is, allow yourself to be easy on yourself. Many of us who have problems or challenges that we're trying to deal with have the extra challenge of, on top of that, our negative self-talk, our disapproval of ourselves, our thinking we should be further along or more in control or more queer or more able to do whatever it is we're trying to do. And so we can beat ourselves up, we can punish ourselves, we can go to fisticuffs with ourselves. And instead of just going, okay, there's a little struggle here. How can I find a solution to this? How can I get through it? So if you don't add that extra layer of beating yourself up for how well you're doing with anything, I mean, that helps with dating too. Not every date is going to go well. Some dates are going to be terrible. And part of that is just that that person isn't the right person for you. That's why the chemistry isn't there. It's not your fault necessarily. It's just that the chemistry isn't there. But even with internal processes that you're doing with yourself, sometimes the chemistry is just not there. So you need to pause. You need to take a break. You need to think about something else, do something else, and then come back to it with a fresh perspective, with new eyes. So those are all things that will help. And also just know that you can let go. Young children do this naturally. You already do this. If you remember the last time you had a really good belly laugh and remember how good that felt, well, that's letting go. when we laugh, we often let go. And the other time we already let go is when our back is against the wall. It's like, I can't take this anymore. Then we may let go then too. That's an unpleasant way to get there. It's more pleasant to get there by laughter. But what you can discover is, because it's natural, if you're open to the Sedona method, these simple questions will help you to tap this natural ability that we all have to let go.
Yeah, with the back against the wall, I can definitely understand. Several relationships I had, my girlfriend, for instance, she was just saying, no, I don't release that until it explodes. And then when she finally released, then she got into peace and got personally on the next level also with her personal growth. She got more in peace with herself as a result.
Right.
Yeah. My next question would be, how did your personal relationships and especially also your love life changed when you once you put the Sedona method into work, let's say?
What I found is that the more I've let go, the easier it is to relate to all human beings, because you naturally relate to them from a place of love, from a place of compassion, from a place of understanding, from a place of allowing them to be themselves. And how that's, and allowing yourself to be yourself. So if you're allowing them to be themselves and you're allowing yourself to be yourself, of course, that improves every relationship. And what I found with my wife, we've been together over 30 years now. And our relationship keeps getting better because we both do this. We both let go. And I also used it when I was dating her. When I was dating her, she was dating other people. But because I was letting go when we were together, she felt best when we were together. So she decided to stop dating the other men and to date me exclusively. And what I was doing is just letting go of my wanting her to like me, letting go of wanting her to pick me, letting go of my self-doubt, letting go of my discomfort being with a woman that I felt attracted to. Because there's a pressure when you feel attracted to someone. You want them to like you too. You want them to feel the same way. And that actually is a put off to somebody else. If you're wanting them to like you, it makes them want to pull away. But if you love yourself and you love them and you're not wanting something from them, or as best you can, then what happens is the relationship gets more natural and more easy. And that's been my experience in all relationships, including in intimate ones.
Yeah, in my personal experience, it's also like you have this kind of reaching energy when you want something from somebody, like validation or control, security, oneness. You have this kind of reaching energy towards them, and they kind of feel it. And on the other hand, you also have kind of the pushing energy, like there's some pushing also. And when you release on the push and on the pull, and do this really with control and validation and with the other stuff, what happens is you can basically be yourself finally around this person, which you haven't been before, and you really see the other person finally. There's not this filter on it.
Exactly. And people are wanting to be seen and acknowledged for who they are, not who you think they are. And you want the same thing. And really, people are wanting something even deeper than that. Inwardly, at our core, we know that we are all connected. We're actually all one. And that's what we're actually looking for, an experience of that in relationship. The more harmonious the energy is, the more connected we feel, the more love we feel with our partner, the more we feel that inner sense of unity. And that's really all that's the most important thing we want in relationship. Now, of course, it's very helpful to have shared interests and shared goals and not diametrically opposed opinions on certain important issues. But those are actually all secondary to that inner sense of loving connection that comes from getting yourself out of the way and allowing them to be the way they are.
Definitely. Like from my personal relationship, which is 3 years now, my girlfriend also says she gets happier and happier and happier and happier. And she said to me like, David, I actually never been so happy in a relationship as with you. And I said, no, that's not me. You did that to yourself because you actually use me as a mirror to release on your issues. And that's the reason you're so happy now, basically. It's not so much to do with me, actually.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, but it's wonderful to have both partners using the Sedona method, letting go, because it really makes for much more harmony and love and caring and insight and affection and all the things you're looking for in relationships are uncovered the more you let go. So I'm glad you've been experiencing that and your clients have been experiencing that. That's great.
Definitely. Great. They have great success with it. Great success. Yeah, I have a different question, and it's about approach anxiety. In my experience, I cold approach women since 13 years, and I did cold approach around 15,000 women in my life, let's say, in clubs, in bars, in everywhere, streets.
Wow, you've been busy.
I did it a lot. Exactly. And but what I basically found out is, and also released, of course, in my approach anxiety, I still have it to this day. Like after all these years, like approaching, and really pushing my comfort zone, and at the same time also going into my fears. I still, I have days where it's non-existent anymore, but I have days where it's pretty a lot, actually. I have to imply effort now. My question would be, is there a way to really let go of it all, like that you have
yes,
no
of course.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes, of course, because as you let go, you're less identified with that separate person that you think you are. And as that happens, you see everyone as yourself to some degree. You see less threat in the other person until there's no threat. And so what will happen as you keep letting go is you'll get to the point where, if you think about it, you only have that anxiety of approaching someone if one is you're trying to get something from them and you're not sure they're going to say yes, or if they feel like a stranger. But what you'll find is as you let go, people, even someone you've met for the very first time, will seem like an old friend. They'll seem less and less like a stranger. And that's why there's that pickup line. Have we met before? Because it's wishful thinking. It's like, yeah, if we've already friends, then sure, we can just start with a friendly conversation. But if you actually have the feeling, which you will have the more you let go, that you are talking to someone who you've known before, or who is already a friend, then there's no approach anxiety. Now, it's not something you have to try to think in advance. It's something that will happen naturally the more you let go.
Yeah.
So you'll reach a point where you won't have approach anxiety approaching people that you're not familiar with. And the other thing that you can help is if you find you're approaching anyone because you want something from them, there's nothing wrong with getting it. But if you're wanting it, it's back to that clingy energy you talked about before. the more you release that, not only will they feel better, but you'll just feel more natural. You'll have less anxiety because you won't be worried so much about getting this thing you think you need from them. And when you're not worried, it's more natural. You're much more likely to get a yes than a no. So this is not only helpful with dating, but it's helpful with sales. It's helpful with just ordinary socializing in any situation. It's helpful in all situations. If you find you're wanting something from somebody else, let go of wanting it. That doesn't mean you have to not have it or get it. But the more you let go of wanting it, the more natural the interaction becomes.
Yeah, this wanting, I also learned from you that it implies a lacking energy, like it's actually is a lacking feeling. And also experience myself, when I let it go, I'm way more efficient at what I do. Way more efficient because I don't have this lack feeling inside all the time.
Right.
And from what you said, like I was in a club one time, in a techno club, and I approached the girls there, and I had this kind of clingy feeling back then. And then there was a bed, and I lied down at the bed, and I released like 1.5 hours straight at this club, at this bed, stood up, and I was a different person. I was a completely different person. The girls reacted completely differently to me. I also had completely different results. So, yeah. And my clients have the same experience. So,
that's good.
Yeah, it's actually tested a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Lester Levinson said, effort is ego in action.
Yes.
Like when I think back at my life, and there were many situations, like especially also with girls, if I wouldn't approach them, and there was definitely effort involved at this time. I had to get over myself and go there. And there was something great coming out of it. So my question would be, is there really effort never appropriate? Is there never a time where...
No, he was talking about it from the perspective of, first of all, Lester Levinson is the man who inspired the work that I do. He was my mentor, my first teacher. And there are many wonderful quotes from him. When he was talking about effort as ego in action, he was pointing out that if there's some efforting, that there's some personal identification. And you can reach a point where there's no identification with what the body-mind is doing. But that's a more advanced thing. I wouldn't worry about that. He also said that it requires effort to undo the effort we've put into all our struggles, all our suffering, all our limitation, all the things that are holding us back. So as long as you're applying effort in a correct way, in a positive direction, by taking actions you need to in order to accomplish what you'd like to accomplish, or through letting go, or whatever the positive things you are doing, of course, there may be this feeling of effort in the beginning. But one of the things you'll find is if you effort and let go, you'll need less and less effort. Whatever the action is gets easier to do because you're not hitting your own inner resistance, and you need the effort to overcome your inner sense of resistance. And so that's a positive use of effort to overcome the inner resistance. But you'll find the less there's resistance, the less there's need of effort until things become effortless.
And how long did it take for you until things really became effortless? Like for me, let's say if my effort would be earlier at a scale of 9 to 10, it's now like 5 to 10, 4 to 10, 5 to 10. And I have to imply it in order to release, to really stand there and say, okay, I'm here for you, emotion. Come here, I'm there, I welcome you. But also I have to put courage, let's say, to get over my fears in the world.
Yes.
Exactly. But it's way less. So when was the time for you, it really was effortless?
Well, it's been a gradual process. I've been doing this, I've kind of lost track because I've been doing this process both with myself and other people for 44 years. That's a long time. Probably longer than you've been alive.
13 years longer.
Yes. So what I can tell you is right now, there's very little I need to exert effort towards. So it's certainly not anything internal. And the effort, when it's internal or even external, I go between 0 and 1s and 2s.
Great.
And there are many things that are pure zeros, where everything is just a natural flow of effortlessness.
And it's a gradual process, you would say. Like,
for me, it was.
Yeah.
For some people, they'll have a big release, and I've experienced this too. I'm not thinking of a specific instance for now, but I've worked with people who were 10s on the level of effort in a particular situation, and just with one session of releasing, they went all the way to 0, 1, 2
for the rest of their lives.
Just
like,
yes.
Yeah. Wow.
As long as I've known them. So it's possible. Here's what I recommend that everyone does with releasing is they do their best to let go moment to moment, but at the same time, allow it to take as long as it does. Every time you let go, you'll see benefits. Certain things will clear up really quickly. Other things might appear to take much longer. But as you're doing this, be open to the possibility that any time you're doing the Sedona Method or releasing on anything will be the very last time you'll ever need to on this particular topic. If you stay open to that, you'll find that can actually happen.
So actually be open to the possibility that might be it when you release it for the last time.
Yes.
If you're not accepting it, then it's not, but it can be.
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's a very good tip. Exactly. What I also recognized during my time with releasing is I have less and less self-doubt, less and less fear. I trust myself more and more. Actually, I think if we would do the interview 1 year ago, I would be super nervous. So that was definitely also due to releasing. But I still have times where I'm fearful. I still have times where I'm doubtful about certain things, also regarding my future. Is there a way to really have zero fear, like be fearless and doubtless?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Great.
The way to be fearless is to know who you truly are. This is back to the more advanced stuff, but I'm going to say it now, just so you and your viewers can have a sense of something to be aware of. At your core, beyond your thoughts, beyond your feelings, beyond the story that you call your life, is this presence of awareness or beingness that is completely fearless. And as you let go, you come from that inner place more and more. That which you truly are, your beingness or your awareness, that which is listening to this whole conversation, yet doesn't feel like it needs to direct the show. It just is watching it unfold. That is actually who you truly are. You're not the person who has a story about all their struggles. So the more you identify as that, the less there is fear, until there's no fear whatsoever. And it is achievable.
Well, I'm staying on the path.
Stay with the path, definitely.
The next question would be from a client of mine. He recognized that when he releases, when he has no negativity inside of him, he actually doesn't make any negative experiences in this world. So is it possible to feel no negativity at all anymore, or are there still flashes from time to time?
It is totally possible to experience no negativity whatsoever. But that's not a guarantee that the world is going to be perfect. Your experience of it is what changes. And you can be completely aware of the truth of who you are, but the body-mind still ages. It still has successes and failures. It still has wins and losses. But what changes is your inner response. The more you let go, the clearer you become, the more positive your mind becomes, and the more you're happy and content and at peace, no matter what is happening through you, around you, and to you. Although nothing actually really ever happens to you, it's all through you and because of that which you truly are.
Actually, I had to say something about it, but I think it will come to my head later.
Good.
What could people do to make a habit out of releasing? What could people do to make a habit out of releasing? Because some clients of us, they seem to struggle to make it really a habit.
Well, the thing I would recommend for making it a habit is practice more the second way of letting go, welcoming, allowing, being present with. That which you truly are, that awareness I mentioned before, is pure welcoming. So you're in alignment with that every time you consciously decide to welcome. But the thing about welcoming or allowing or being present with whatever you're experiencing, you can do that without releasing questions. You can just simply stay open. The more open you stay, the less there's any place for anything to stick to. And so you can just you'll find yourself living from a place of welcoming or allowing. And in doing that, you'll find that you're releasing more and more and more, because welcoming and letting go are exactly the same thing. Except with releasing, often it feels like you're dropping something. Whereas welcoming, you just open. And when you're open, things just simply pass through awareness, like smoke up a chimney or the clouds through the sky. And that's something you can do all day long, from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you fall asleep at night.
It's actually a way of living life, you can say.
Yes.
Be in a welcoming state of mind all the time.
Yes. But don't force it. Allow it to come naturally. If you try to force it, you'll just resist it. But if you open to that as a possibility, you'll start to discover it. Sometimes you won't even realize you've been welcoming for hours until afterwards, where you start resisting again. Wow, this doesn't feel good. Boy, I felt great before. What happened? Oh, I stopped being open. I closed down. So if you allow it to be as natural as possible, you'll find that it gets easier and easier to do.
Yeah, that's also what I experienced when I went too hard on that. I have to welcome this now, I have to welcome everything, that I didn't. But if I said, oh yeah, now there is a bad emotion, I can welcome that. Okay, let's live on my life. I welcome that. And with being easygoing with that, I could release a way more, like a lot more. It felt better.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. The next question would be how to get out of apathy, because I have clients, they are coming off, they are on their path, but then they're coming off of their path and have like apathetic phases. So how did you deal with these kind of phases in the past?
So what you do is you be gentle with yourself when you find yourself feeling apathetic or resistant, and you release as best you can. And you know that you're not that feeling. We think I'm apathetic, but it isn't true. It's just a feeling like any other feeling. And it too shall pass, even if you feel like you can't release it in this moment. And you'll find if you just simply allow yourself to do what you're doing when you're doing it, and don't do what you're not doing when you're not doing it, you'll find that it's easier to not get stuck in those lower energies.
Mm. With that, I had an interesting experience when I do what I do when I'm doing it and not do it when I'm not doing it. Like my ego doesn't like it always, because it jumps in and said, "Oh, you have to do it now." But yeah,
right.
Of course, you can release that too.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, it's actually
yes. Well, the ego it jumps in to help all the time.
Yeah.
And what the ego does is it creates problems and then it pretends to solve them for you.
I have, like, when the ego jumps in like that, because when I look into the future, it feels like my ego tells me it's so important that you do something now that it's scary to bring up the courage and say, "I welcome you." The voice, you know.
Yes.
But I do it anyway, and in the end, it turns out, it's just an illusion, basically.
Yes. So you're starting to see that for yourself, which is great. And I'm sure everyone listening to this has had that experience. You all have, if you think about it, you've had times where you were absolutely certain something was impossible or it wasn't going to work out, and it worked out anyway. You've also had times where you weren't sure what to do, yet intuitively something came to you. Mm-hmm. Someone did something to help. That harmony in life is what's natural. The more you let go and you come from this inner place of awareness inside, there's more and more harmony in every part of your life. It's actually always there, except we start to experience it more and more.
Mm-hmm. I also experience more harmony, especially when I found out that I'm not the doer.
Yes.
Played with that, and I felt more freedom. There was a little thing unclear to me. Let's say you set goals and you go out to get them, or to get your wishes or your goals.
Yes.
But at the same time being not the doer, having no influence about what you do. That's something I didn't get so much.
Yeah, so it's a dichotomy, and it will never, I guarantee it will never make sense to the mind.
Yeah, ever. I understand. But on the bigger
so the
scale,
thing to do is the thing to do is to be open at least to the possibility that you as a person are not the doer. The one energy that operates this entire universe. Some people call it God, some people call it spirit, some people call it awareness. It doesn't matter what you call it, but that all of us are functioning as part of that one interconnected organism. And that interconnected organism is not just functioning through you, it's functioning through all beings everywhere, all objects everywhere, all plants, all animals. And if it can operate the entire universe, it doesn't need your help. All you need to do is do your best, and everything else takes care of itself. And the more you let go of the sense of personal doership, the more you'll find that the entire universe is supporting you in every way.
Yeah, it's actually great to give up control. It's a great feeling,
yes,
like that.
Yeah, it's a relief.
Definitely. Yeah, I've been a few times in a state, very high state for me, like where it actually came to a point where I was not identified with this body anymore, and I was basically watching myself from outside. It felt a little bit like that, and it was like very free, like I was super free. And I have that from time to time where I enter that kind of state, where I'm actually the all, let's say, and this is like everything else. But I seem to snap back.
Yes. Well, again, what's happening there is just a simple confusion. The mind is what comes and goes. Those times that you think are wonderful because you feel so good and you're seeing things from a bigger perspective or seeing it more from the perspective of the all, is you're experiencing what's natural, what's here always beyond the mind, beyond that sense of a personal separate identity. And so the personal identity, the mind comes and goes, but you never go anywhere because you already are that. If you think about the best experiences you've had in the past, generally what you do is you try to get back to them, right? You try to have it again. So instead of doing that, in this moment, just check, what is the same in this moment as those times that you felt so expanded? If you really look at that, it pulls you right back into that being your living experience because it is what's natural. So trying to get back to a positive takes you away from the now, from the only time anything at all is experienceable or the only time any action takes place. So if you allow yourself, instead of trying to get back to your good experiences, you allow yourself to notice what is actually the same at your core in this moment, you don't lose it as easily. Mm-hmm. And the only reason you lose it is you get caught back up in the mind, and that will continue to happen. You don't actually ever lose it, but the only reason you feel like you lose it is because of that, and that will continue until it doesn't. So just let the mind come and go as it does, and do your best when the mind is here to let go and use all the tools that you already know.
Yep. I think it's a kind of a repetitive process where just whenever you feel my identification is strong, I let it go and come back to that place. And the more you do that, the more you have a connection with that.
Well, it's simpler than that, but that's a good way to describe it. Uh-huh. It's actually, you don't have a connection with that. You are that.
True.
And that's a big difference. As long as you think you have a connection with it, you're identifying as the separate individual, trying to connect with your bigger individual or your bigger self or your the all. But when you start to recognize that you already are that, then you look at the comings and goings of the mind with affection. You let the mind come and go as it does, knowing that it isn't who you are.
Mm-hmm. You're just basically the one witnesses it. Witness everything.
Yes.
Something this feels so personal that it's hard to believe, but the more you use this kind of techniques, the more you get a consciousness for that, is my experience also.
Yes.
Yes. Another question would be, in the moment it's pretty hip to take like substances for self-realization like LSD or ayahuasca. What would be your take on this?
Yeah, I would recommend that you do your best to do it without that artificial assistance. It's not that it's wrong or bad, but you unleash all sorts of energies that you don't really understand when you force yourself into an altered state. And it's better to achieve that naturally, because the more you achieve it naturally, the more it becomes your living experience. Whereas using these drugs, they might give you a taste, but they sometimes make it harder for you to achieve it on your own. So be judicious about this. It's not black or white, but it's not something I highly recommend.
Yeah, what I personally found with people who did this, they tend to snap back. They have a short time where the awareness is heightened, but they snap back again. And I think it's because what you said, basically.
Yes.
That's, yeah. Another question would be, I've heard many times that a healthy lifestyle and good nutrition is very important in order to reach high consciousness levels. What would you say about that?
Well, it's not required, but it's very helpful. This particular body mind has been a vegetarian since 1987 and vegan for 3 or 4 years. But that's not necessarily the right diet for everyone. How you can discover what's right for you is to really pay attention. The foods that make you feel more alert, happier, more centered in your body. I'm not talking about stimulants, but the foods. When you eat food, you should feel nourished. If you feel heavy after a meal, something in that meal probably isn't exactly right for you. But if you feel nourished and light and ready for whatever's next, then the food is probably good for you. So it's more important to follow that than to follow strict dietary guidelines, because everybody is different and it needs different things. I mean, I highly recommend eating more of whole plant-based foods, because science now has discovered that it's just very healthy for you and also very healthy for the planet. But do you have to do that? Of course not. Is it a prerequisite? No. Lester, my mentor, got his understanding before he let go of meat. It happened so quickly. He didn't change anything external. Things changed internally, and then afterwards, he decided that meat eating was not a good idea. But everyone listening to this, follow your own heart, follow your own inner guidance. And if you really follow your heart as opposed to your tongue or your tendencies, you'll be guided in the right direction.
That makes a lot of sense. We also have a big nutrition community where there's a lot of nutritional experts. I think they find that also pretty interesting.
Yes, and there's again, there's a lot of amazing information on diet, but even there are some people who try to eat vegan, for instance, and their bodies can't adapt to it. It's just not right for them. So it's important to do what's best for your body as opposed to just following expert guidance. You need to always check it against your own direct experience.
Another question would be, like, a client of mine, he has always problems to get up in the morning. Only when he has like important meetings, then he's able to get up. But otherwise,
what?
Only a client of mine, only when he has important meetings, important appointments, then he can stand up in the morning. But other times he just sleeps, and he wants to change that. Do you have any kind of tip for him?
Yes. One is have more meetings. I'm kidding. Yeah. The thing is, just the desire to sleep is just when you're overdoing it. Of course, everyone needs a certain amount of sleep for their body minds, and it's healthy. But the desire to escape that way is because there's an uncomfortable feeling that we're avoiding. So when we face that uncomfortable feeling and let it go, then our sleep patterns become more effortless and natural. And you also find your sleep becomes deeper, and you feel more refreshed when you wake up in the morning. And it also, letting go also helps with being able to sleep when our mind is very noisy, when our gut is in a knot. it's difficult to sleep. But the quieter your mind gets and the easier you feel inside, which is all natural as you let go, the easier it is to get a good night's sleep and wake up feeling refreshed.
Yeah, personally, I release sometimes 1 hour before I go to bed or something, and then I have this effect. So he should basically just release before he sleeps. Do release
Yes. And also release when he first wakes up. Even if he wakes up feeling heavy and wanting to go back to sleep, that's a feeling too. You can release that. Believe it or not, even the feeling of tiredness. Now, I'm not saying override what your body needs. It's not about that. But even the feeling of tiredness is releasable.
I tested that. It's true.
Yeah,
and
good,
headache.
Good.
Headache. I could also.
Yes, absolutely.
I was astonished by that.
Yes, it is astonishing when you recognize how much you can let go of.
It's crazy. Another client of mine, he releases since 4 years straight, and he's doing like a lot of visualizations and stuff, and it's all about approaching women. And somehow he's still not able to approach them. But I think we had that kind of topic before. But I would like to ask for him, what could be the cause of his complete apathy when it comes to that, even though he releases so much and he does so much visualization?
Well, it could be he's telling himself a story that he's still buying. See, each moment is new. We treat each moment based on what happened in the moments before, including all our history. But if you approach each moment as the only moment, because that's actually true, there is only now. And when you have a pattern like that, see, it's just a pattern from the past. It doesn't have to dictate what's going to happen now. And you can let go of the pattern, and you'll find that what happens in this moment changes. And the other thing is, when you find a pattern that's holding you back, you tend to see the world through that pattern, and you filter out any evidence to the contrary. So what I recommend anyone listening to me that's trying to work on a pattern do is to look for where the pattern isn't. This is the opposite of what the mind does. It looks for proof that there's a problem there. And of course, since you're looking for proof, you'll find it. But in most cases, what I've discovered with people is everything's okay, everything's okay, everything's okay, everything's okay. And I could say that for a very long time for it to be accurate. And then something happens which conforms to our belief about ourselves that seems to be proof of the pattern. And the mind goes, see, I always struggle talking to women, or I'm never going to get free of this, and on and on and on. And we ignore the times that everything's okay. So it's important to give the mind something different to do, because it likes to have something to do. So instead of having it looking for where there's a problem, look for where things are working. Look for where the pattern isn't. That's a very powerful way to break through.
And I think also it's a way to release the pattern.
Yes, it's a very powerful way to release the pattern.
Because I remember one release from you, when you have fear, you told, can you be open to the possibility that this is just an illusion? So you told that, and that helped big time. Because then you told your mind, oh, yeah, of course, it's you're making too much out of it right now.
Yes.
Yeah, another thing would be, I still have a kind of sense of separation inside of me. And I can't seem to let it completely go. So how is it?
But who has it? In this moment, are you the one with that sense of separation? Or are you that which is aware of it?
I'm that which is aware of it. Aware of this feeling,
Yes. So as that awareness, just be that for a moment. That's it.
Mm.
Just settle as the awareness. Now check, does that have any boundaries? Can you actually find where awareness ends and anything else begins?
I can just find emotions, but not the
Yes,
boundary.
but are they, right, exactly. But aren't emotions appearing in or on that awareness?
They appear on that awareness.
Exactly. So that which you are has never been separate. That which you pretend to be or believe yourself to be will never be one. Freedom is not for the person that you believe you are. It's from that. The less you identify as a person, the more you'll recognize you are that which is aware of everything, including the person. And that has no limits. And that has never been separate.
Yeah. With what you did, you put me back into a release session you did where you asked the same questions. Do you know like where your skin, where awareness ends and where you end and outside begins? And this was a great release. It put me.
Yes.
It was nice.
Good.
Yeah. Mm.
So I'm running out of time. So anything else you want to ask before we end the
Yes, one very important question would be for me: is it somehow possible to create new triggers and limitations? Is there a thing we do to maybe create new triggers or create new limitations?
Well, yes and no. In my experience, there really isn't any new triggers. There's just what happens is as we let go, anything that's still unresolved will come up into the surface. So you're not necessarily creating something new, but you're seeing more clearly things that have been there all along. And you'll find, yes, of course, if there's a very traumatic situation, even now that happens, there may be some triggers there, but if you release them, they won't get embedded. Mm-hmm. But in most cases, what I've found is we all have the same triggers, and we come in with a whole set of triggers that are designed for us to see through and let go of. And once we've done that, the more released of triggers you are, the less you can be triggered, but the less you have the ability to create new ones.
Mm-hmm. So the more you have triggers inside of you, the more you also have the ability to create new ones, and the more you release, the less ability you also have to create new ones.
Yes. Well, the more you, again, most people don't go, gee, I want to create a trigger. I'm feeling great at the moment, so let me see if I can create a trigger.
Yeah, exactly.
No, they kind of often happen out of our conscious awareness. And so the thing to do is just be aware of triggers when you are and let them go as best you can. In doing that, the fertilizer for triggers to hold on to is our identification as a person, as a limited body mind. As you release that, as you get rid of the fertilizer, there's no longer any place to grow the garden of triggers. And so, and you'll find all your remaining triggers start to respond less and less the more you let go of your sense of being that separate individual, that limited person. And so you reach a point where it becomes almost impossible to create a trigger.
Okay. That's good to know. So the more you release, the more impossible it becomes, basically. And the more you let go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Great. Yeah, that's basically it, Hale. I mean,
good.
I have more questions, but that was like the most important one to me. The other ones are not that. But I could actually answer them myself, the rest. It was just
good.
stuff.
Good. So just a reminder for everyone that has been listening to this. Remember that who you are already is whole, complete, and enough as it is. You don't have to change anything about that. You already are that. And all those things that appear to be holding you back, they can't touch that. So if you just allow yourself to remember that as best you can, and remember too that feelings are just feelings, thoughts are just thoughts. They're not you, and they're not facts, and you can let them go. The more you can just experiment with that, be open to that, the more your life will transform for the better. So thank you all for listening and watching.